There is an animal sitting in a bamboo forest in Sichuan province right now, eating its 14th kilogram of bamboo today, doing absolutely nothing that the rest of the world does not find completely wonderful. And the rest of the world has responded to this by dedicating more conservation resources, more scientific attention, more diplomatic negotiation, and more genuine human emotion to this single animal than to almost any other species on Earth. The giant panda did not ask for any of this. It does not know about any of this. It is eating bamboo. This is the story of an animal that solved the problem of existence in the most indirect and counterintuitive way possible, by being so immediately, unshakably, universally appealing to human beings that human beings have reorganized significant portions of their behavior to ensure that the panda continues to exist. The giant panda is, by the standard metrics of evolutionary fitness, an animal that should not be doing as well as it is doing. Its diet is nutritionally inadequate. Its reproductive rate is one of the lowest of any mammal. Its geographic range is small and fragmented. Its digestive system is poorly suited to its primary food source. And yet the giant panda is not only surviving, but is, as of the most recent assessments, recovering. Its population in the wild has increased significantly over the past 2 decades, from approximately 1,000 individuals in the 1980s to over 1,800 today. The reason for this recovery is not that the panda became better at surviving. The panda has not changed. The reason is that human beings became better at wanting the panda to survive, which is an entirely different mechanism of conservation and one that the panda stumbled into without any apparent intention or effort. The bamboo situation requires explanation because it is genuinely strange, and the strangeness is important. The giant panda is classified as a carnivore. Its digestive system is the digestive system of a carnivore. A short, simple gut designed for the rapid processing of protein-rich animal matter, not the long, complex fermenting gut that herbivores used to break down plant cellulose. The panda's ancestors were meat eaters. The panda's teeth, when examined, show the sharp carnassial teeth of a predator alongside the flat molars it has developed for grinding bamboo. The panda's gut bacteria include the bacteria of a carnivore. Despite all of this, the panda eats bamboo, almost exclusively. Between 95 and 99% of its diet is bamboo, stems, leaves, and shoots, depending on the season and what is available. It eats between 12 and 38 kilograms of bamboo per day, which is a remarkable quantity given that bamboo has very low caloric density and that the panda's gut can only extract about 17% of the bamboo's available energy. A cow's gut extracts roughly 60% of the energy from grass. The panda extracts 17% of the energy from bamboo with a gut that was not designed for bamboo. This is an extraordinarily inefficient nutritional strategy, and the panda compensates for it by eating more or less continually, spending between 10 and 16 hours per day eating, and by having a metabolism so low that it would be alarming in almost any other large mammal. The panda's basal metabolic rate is approximately 40% of what you would predict for a mammal of its size. It burns energy so slowly that it can sustain itself on a diet that would starve most other animals of comparable size. The low metabolism has consequences that extend beyond nutrition. The panda does not run if it can walk. It does not climb if it can sit. It does not engage in territorial disputes that require sustained physical activity. It spends approximately half of its waking hours eating and approximately half of its days sleeping. And this schedule, which sounds like the lifestyle of an animal in severe difficulty, is actually the precisely calibrated energy management of an animal that has matched its energy expenditure to its energy intake with a specificity that no amount of conscious planning could improve upon. The panda evolved this strategy over several million years, during which the bamboo forests of central China provided a food source so abundant and so consistently available that an animal willing to eat almost nothing but bamboo could, if it managed its energy budget with sufficient precision, survive in conditions that excluded most other large mammals. The strategy worked. It continues to work. The panda eating bamboo in Sichuan today is doing exactly what pandas have been doing for millions of years, and the fact that its digestive system is technically wrong for the job has not prevented the job from getting done. The sixth finger helps. The panda's enlarged radial sesamoid bone, which functions as an opposable pseudo-thumb, is one of the more famous examples in evolutionary biology of a structure that evolved for one purpose, serving another entirely different purpose. The sesamoid bone is part of the wrist structure, and in most mammals is a small bone with no particular functional significance. In the panda, it has enlarged over millions of years into a bony protrusion that the panda uses to grip bamboo stalks, strip leaves, and manipulate the food that constitutes essentially its entire diet. It is not a real thumb. It does not have the range of motion or the muscle attachment of a true thumb, but it is good enough to grip bamboo, which is all it needs to be. And its existence means that the panda can hold and manipulate bamboo stalks with both forepaws simultaneously, which dramatically increases the efficiency of its bamboo processing relative to what it could achieve with standard bare forepaws. Stephen Jay Gould wrote an entire essay about the panda pseudo-thumb, called The Panda's Thumb, which became one of the most widely read essays in the history of popular science writing, because the pseudo-thumb is such a clean illustration of one of evolution's central principles. Evolution does not produce optimal solutions. It produces workable solutions from available materials. The panda's thumb is not the thumb that an engineer would design for the purpose of gripping bamboo. It is the thumb that evolution could produce by modifying an existing wrist bone, which is a different and considerably less elegant thing, but which works well enough to support an animal that has been eating bamboo for millions of years. The panda's coloration is the feature that most directly explains its relationship with human beings, and it deserves honest examination rather than the vague assertion that it is cute, because cute is not a specific enough description of what is actually happening. The giant panda is black and white in a pattern that is immediately distinctive and that human beings respond to with a consistency that crosses cultural boundaries in ways that most animal appearances do not. The black patches around the eyes make the panda's face red as having large, prominent eyes, a feature that human beings are neurologically predisposed to find appealing because it resembles the facial proportions of human infants. The contrast between the black and white patches creates a visual clarity that makes the animal immediately recognizable at a distance. The rounded body shape and the apparent clumsiness of a large animal doing fine motor tasks with a pseudo-thumb produce the specific combination of competence and endearment that human beings find irresistible. Researchers who have studied human responses to panda imagery have found that the panda's appearance activates reward centers in the human brain with a reliability and an intensity that is unusual even among animals generally considered cute. The panda is not accidentally appealing. Its specific combination of visual features happens to align precisely with the specific combination of features that the human nervous system is most strongly predisposed to respond positively to, which is a coincidence of extraordinary practical consequence for the panda's survival. This alignment was not designed. Evolution does not optimize for human approval. The panda's coloration evolved in a context where the black and white patterns served purposes related to the panda's own environment, camouflage in snowy mountain environments, communication with other pandas, thermoregulation in forests with variable light. And the human response to it is a byproduct of the coincidental overlap between what the panda's environment selected for and what the human nervous system finds compelling. But the byproduct is real, and its effects are substantial. The panda became the founding symbol of the World Wildlife Fund in 1961, when Peter Scott drew the logo for the organization using the image of a panda named Chi-Chi, who was then living at the London Zoo. The choice of the panda as the conservation movement's primary symbol was explicitly based on its visual appeal. The WWF's founders understood that conservation required public support and that the panda's appearance was unusually effective at generating that support. The logo has not changed in 60 years. The panda's appeal has not diminished. The diplomatic use of pandas by the Chinese government, the practice of panda diplomacy in which China loans giant pandas to other countries as diplomatic gestures, began in the 1950s and has continued as one of the more unusual instruments of international relations currently in operation. A country that receives a panda on loan receives not merely an animal, but a symbol of Chinese goodwill, a guaranteed generator of public interest and positive media coverage, and an ongoing reminder of the relationship between the two countries every time the panda appears in the news, which is frequently, because pandas in foreign zoos are reliable producers of news. The panda loan agreements are structured with the specific care that valuable diplomatic instruments receive. The terms include conservation contributions from the receiving country to Chinese panda conservation programs, the return of any cubs born during the loan period to China, and the maintenance of specific habitat and care standards that the Chinese government specifies. A country receiving a panda is committing to a relationship with China that is expressed not in treaty language, but in bamboo feeding schedules and enclosure dimensions. This is an extraordinary position for any animal to occupy in international relations, and the panda occupies it entirely by virtue of being what it is. In the zoo, the panda produces something that most zoo animals do not reliably produce: lines. People wait in lines to see pandas in a way that they do not wait for lions, for elephants, for great apes. The panda's enclosure at any major zoo is one of its most visited exhibits, consistently generating more visitors per animal than exhibits containing animals that are, by any objective measure of dramatic capability, more impressive. The lion can sprint at 80 kilometers per hour and take down prey multiple times its size. The elephant is the largest land animal on Earth. The gorilla is physically stronger than any human being. None of them draws the specific, reliable, cross-cultural public response that the panda draws, which is something between delight and affection, something warmer and more personal than the admiration that powerful animals generate. The panda in its zoo enclosure is doing the same thing it does in Sichuan, eating bamboo, sitting heavily, occasionally rolling, occasionally falling over in ways that seem to surprise it, and occasionally producing offspring that are born pink and the size of a stick of butter and that grow into animals that weigh 130 kilograms, which is one of the most dramatic size differentials between newborn and adult of any mammal on Earth. The newborn panda is helpless to a degree unusual for a bear. It cannot regulate its own temperature. Its eyes and ears are sealed. It is covered in sparse white hair and is completely dependent on its mother for warmth, feeding, and the stimulation of basic bodily functions. The mother, 130 kilograms of bear, handles this tiny creature with a precision and a gentleness that observers consistently find striking, holding it with her forepaws against her chest, rolling to protect it, moving with the specific care of an animal that understands it is managing something fragile. Twin births are not uncommon in pandas. The female frequently conceives twins, but in the wild, the mother raises only one cub. She chooses the stronger cub and puts her full maternal investment into that one. The other cub does not survive without intervention. This is not cruelty. It is the energy mathematics of an animal with a low-calorie diet, trying to produce the most viable offspring it can with the resources available, which means investing everything in one cub rather than dividing inadequate resources between two and potentially losing both. In zoos and in breeding centers, where humans can supplement feeding and provide care for the rejected cub, both twins frequently survive. This is one of the more direct expressions of the panda's relationship with human beings. The human investment in the panda's survival has modified the panda's effective reproductive outcomes, producing more surviving pandas per birth than animals' own biology would produce in isolation. The panda currently numbers approximately 1,800 individuals in the wild, distributed across fragmented mountain forests in Sichuan, Shaanxi, and Gansu provinces in China. The Chinese government has invested heavily in panda conservation over the past 3 decades, establishing nature reserves, creating wildlife corridors between fragmented habitat patches, reducing human encroachment on panda habitat, and maintaining a captive breeding program that has produced more than 600 pandas in captivity. The captive population serves both as a conservation reserve and as the primary mechanism of panda diplomacy. providing the animals that are loaned to foreign zoos and providing the visible evidence of conservation success that motivates continued public and governmental support for the program. The captive pandas are ambassadors for the wild pandas in the specific sense that the funds and the attention they generate flow back into the wild population's protection. The panda, in this sense, has achieved something that very few wild animals have achieved. It has converted its own appeal into a self-sustaining conservation mechanism. The appeal generates resources. The resources protect the habitat. The protected habitat supports the wild population. The wild population generates the scientific work and the media coverage that maintains the appeal. The cycle is not perfect and it is not guaranteed to continue, but has been operating for several decades, and the wild population is growing. The bamboo is still there. The panda is still eating it. 12 to 38 kilograms per day, 10 to 16 hours of eating, a metabolism so low that it borders on the incredible, a gut that extracts 17% of the available energy from a food source it was never designed for, a pseudo-thumb that is not really a thumb, but that grips bamboo well enough to have sustained a species for millions of years. And the black and white pattern that coincidentally activates reward centers in human brains, generating a response so consistent and so intense that it has redirected billions of dollars of conservation funding and reshaped the foreign policy of multiple nations, and that the panda produces without any knowledge of what it is producing, by simply being exactly what it is. The panda sits in the bamboo. It eats. The world watches. That is by any measure enough.